Here is a special dedication to everyone who has a vision and is going through things that make you think you won't get there. This song is for you. When I look into the world, I see my dreamland, but it's far from me now, and it's getting farther. Many have gone through this lane. They have stories to tell. Some are good and some are bad, but I've made up my mind that my story will be pleasant and pleasing to hear. Though it's wrong, I am tough, and I know I will make it. I will get there some way, someday, somehow. I've made up my mind. Sitting there in the morning, right in front of the mirror, wondering if I'll ever make it, 'cause of things happening around me. And then I heard this little voice say to me, my child, you're going to make it. And then it dawned on me that I am made for the top. So no matter what it takes, for this journey. Yeah. I will get there someday, some way, somehow. Oh, yeah. I will get there someday, some way, somehow.
Yeah, good morning. It's another exciting Saturday here on Vocal Prowes with Zazee and Mamuzo. And yes, regular viewers, regular audience will know that it is Mamuzo that usually kicks that, but unavoidably absent for this Saturday. But of course, I've got here, we've got one another, and it promises to be another exciting edition where we'll be learning and of course ensuring that we encourage one another to make the best use of our voice to get there to our destination, which is success, which is amplifying our voices for the goals that we desire. Okay, I really need you to confirm if you can hear me, if you can see me clearly, so I would know that yes, I am passing the message across as it is intended. Welcome once again. I am Zazee, and as we are family, narrators and purpose, using our voices and purpose, using it deliberately, building it intentionally so that we will get to our destinations of choice. Without much ado, don't want to waste the time of our guest today, who is going to be taking us through the world of spoken word artistry. Wow, interesting. Yes, we speak, we talk, we use our voices, but it is very amazing to know that there are million and one ways where we can use our voices, the words that we learn, the vocabulary that we develop, and of course the expression that we choose to pass our messages. So Adigun Olushola is going to be with us later in a few minutes, and he will be taking us through the world of spoken word artistry, and we will be learning. I can't wait for him to join me here so that it will enlighten us on a few tips of how to make use of the voice, make use of your words, and express yourself through spoken word artistry. However, before I get the guest in today, I really want to do a quick reminder of what we learned last week, yeah, which is a TV commercial, but the delivery. We tried making different delivery. Mamuzo tried hers, I tried mine, and then we also encouraged you to try yours. I'm really hoping that you did. And if you missed it, go right ahead. You will be seeing it. It was the previous episode. That's last week. Go through it. That's watch it again. Do your practices, and let's hear the feedback from you. Perhaps you were even able to do it better. That would be interesting to know. So we know that yes, we have building a community of professionals in the voiceover industry. Okay, so doing that now, I guess it will be time for me to check if the guest is right now, so that we can delve uh, into the edition proper for today, where we will be learning a few tips about the voiceover spoken word artistry. Of course, is still under using your voice and that. Okay, so please let me know if I guess this is
Yes,
joining us
definitely,
shortly. We're hoping
definitely.
that
Good
the network
morning.
will be on our side.
Good.
Hello.
Yeah, I think he's ready. Good morning.
Hello. Oh, I'm loving
Hi.
the background that you have on here. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, I can. I can. I hope you can hear me too.
I can hear you loud, and I don't know why I have this feeling that I am not clear, I'm not audible
Oh, you're
enough, but
very
it's
clear.
good to know
You're
that
very,
you
very
said you
clear.
can hear me. What did you say?
You're very, very clear. I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, that's quite relieving to know. Okay, so how is your day unfolding so far? It's a Saturday.
Uh, yes, right. It's unfolding really well, quite well. I've had some things to do today, and of course, there are still so many
Mm.
things to do. But then, this is one amazing thing
And
I've been looking forward to, and I'm glad we're on it already. I was looking forward to seeing
yes, you
Rambo,
know,
but she explained she wouldn't be
what
here
did you
for
say?
reasons. I said I was looking forward to seeing Mamuzo too, but then she explained
Yeah,
for
you
yeah
know, so
those
many things happen now. Yeah, and you know,
exactly
when you're
exactly
multi-skilled, you find your skills
almost
calling you from different angles and all of that, and you must attend to them. You must attend to the call. So today is one of those days where she just has to excuse herself, and of course, going forward, we'll still have our here.
of course
All
of
right,
course.
so you are to take us us into the world of spoken word artistry. I have
Right.
a confession before you take the lead on that journey.
Okay.
I, you know, I do a lot of words compilation. I pay attention to my
Okay.
vocabulary development, to the
Okay.
diction, enunciation, pronunciation, expression, just so I
Love
know
that.
that I'm actually communicating. Yeah,
Mm.
that's like the basic. And then, yes, I love poetry, but
Right.
I must give kudos to you, spoken word artists. You just master the craft of intonation, rhythm, and then
Mhm.
you kind of bring. You're not into. It's not that you're into music,
Yeah, not
but the
exactly.
way you deliver the words just give it a top notch, like a notch higher than the normal
No,
poetry
just
rendition that we're used
mm,
to. So I just really want
yeah.
to use this opportunity to say kudos to you. I am a fan.
Thank thank you. I'm a fan
Okay,
too, of course.
so
Definitely.
let me.
Can you hear me?
Sorry, I didn't get that. The
I
network.
said I'm a
I didn't
fan.
get
I'm a
that.
fan too. I'm a fan. I'm a fan too. Like there's so many stuff we should have
Um,
done before, right? And I know, of course,
yeah,
there are stuff in the future, but then
yeah. It's
we're
still
unfolding
cooking. We're still in
gradually.
the
This is one.
kitchen.
Yeah,
We're still in the
definitely.
kitchen.
We're
Don't
cool.
worry. The food will be done soon, and we'll serve it.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Good to see you
All right
again.
then. So let's go into it. So we are the students now, the audience on the other side,
Mm,
myself, and we are ready to learn. So spoken word artistry. Can you just give us like a background into it, and then you
okay.
give the tips of
Okay. Okay. Sure.
memorization?
Okay. Let me start by explaining that I literally just stumbled on spoken word poetry because in all honesty I didn't know anything like that existed. More like I didn't study poetry or anything. I stumbled on it, tried and just studied, and then of course I had to go further into understanding the old basics of it and everything. So I don't have this kind of like um definition, this conventional definition. Several times I've tried to like Google, okay, what is spoken word poetry? And then of course there are standard definitions. But I feel like we all in the end do spoken word poetry. But I think the difference is that the spoken word poet pays more attention to the way he uses his words than an average person. So in the end, we are all poets. So if you scream out loud somewhere in your class and say, I have a dream that someday our teachers will no longer subject us to assignments that we're not interested in, that's some kind of poetry.
What a dream!
That's some, you understand. So, but then you would say that and not consider it as poetry, but then it is, because I feel in the end, poetry is any form of vocal art that you can use to express your intentions,
Mm,
your emotions at every given point in
yeah,
time. So poetry has been used to express anger in the past, to express love and everything like that. So usually people stumble or find themselves in poetry in two ways that I've discovered, either through a heartbreak or through a crush. So you're crushing on someone and you want to write about the person. You write some amazing lines, but you don't know you're doing poetry. Apparently, I think I found my somewhere in that line. Or you just stumbled on, or sorry, someone broke your heart and you can't tell anyone because you've bragged about the relationship, how that the person is the most amazing person in the whole world, and you can't tell people now that she's gone or he's gone. So you want to write it down and you're writing all the pain and anger. So usually you write poetry when you're starting, either to praise someone you love or to get back at them. You understand? So at the core of our humanness is poetry, I would say. Yeah, so everyone literally can do poetry, but then there has to be this level of intention to it. That's what differentiates a spoken word poet from an average poet out there who is just anybody.
mhm,
So I hope
mm.
that gives it some
Yeah,
face.
definitely. And then yes, a message popped in just as you were
Okay.
talking from DJ, saying that
Okay.
she loves the sound of "We Are All Poets." Some kind of consolation you're giving to us that
No,
feel we
no.
can acquire the skills that you already have. Well, yeah, that's quite nice to know. But then another thing I think I want to add to that is
Okay.
poetry could also um, come when you have the emotions of missing a loved one. I think
Yeah,
the very first poem I wrote was when I lost my dad.
exactly.
And it has been
Exactly.
flowing since then. So
Mm.
emotions, definitely, you're right,
It's just and
inspires poem. Okay, so we want to learn. So last
okay,
week's
yeah.
we want to
I don't
learn.
think
So
I
Shamina,
love the first word.
another amazing skill that you display is you reciting this offhand.
And I think that's
So
exactly what we're focusing on today. So I think
exactly. So
because yeah, it cuts across
I need you
so many areas.
Yeah, I need you to
So
take
well,
on that journey. How do you l- memorize? It doesn't seem to me to be quite easy. But if we ask you now, you say it is easy. So tell
well,
us,
I won't
what do you
exactly
do?
say that because ease is relative. I won't exactly say that really.
Okay.
Like before someone comes up to say I'm giving some kind of consolation, you know, it's not exactly easy. It's not
Okay.
exactly easy, but of course it's possible. And I would say again, I would reiterate
Mm.
that anybody can do it. It's just because I'm not being a motivational speaker, like you can do anything, you put your heart to yes, it's valid. But yeah, you can do it. So I think
Mm.
we should just dive into it already. So if I'm to give this discussion a
Okay.
title or a topic, I'll call it the basics of memorization. So if you're writing down, if you're jotting things down, I think you should jot it down now. So it's called the basics
Yeah,
of memorization. And
I know.
this won't be from right. So this will not be some scholarly academic kind of session where you get definitions and all of those things. It will be basically me pouring
Mm.
out from my heart the same exact way that I do it, the practical application of the lessons I've learned over time that I did not know were helping me. But because I paid attention to them after a while, I figured these were the things that I could probably call my superpower. So yeah, so let's dive into it. First and foremost, without taking so much of our time, I would say that I'm able to memorize my poems basically because they are tied to pictures. Yes, and how best can you
Mm.
tie words to pictures? Is by putting them in stories, like making them so real that you see them in your mind. So I'll say first and foremost, if you check all of my poems, there's a kind of story in it. There's a series of images tying up together. So I use linking words to create pictures. But then we'll get to that. So the first thing
Okay.
basically the writing is yeah, my lines, my poetry are story based. So I'm literally telling you a story. So if I'm on the stage and I happen to forget a line, the problem is not what is next because it's actually a real story I'm telling. I know the story. The problem is what words I used to describe that part. So I can always improvise on stage. Many times I've improvised and people didn't even notice. I just have to, restate a line maybe once or twice, pretending it's for emphasis sake. But actually, I'm trying to remember the next line and like that. So when your poem is story based or whatever you want to say out loud, is story based, and by being story based, I mean if it adds pictures, imagery, it is very very easy for you to remember. Unlike just having some random statements that are linking, especially things like perspire to aspire, you retire and to refire. Those things are good. I'll get to that. Rhymes, I'll get to that. They help too. But we're talking about the story now. So you get the story part. Um I wrote some things down so we have a coordinated class. Um, so yeah, the next thing would be yeah, in case we're not able to cover everything because of course 30 minutes is not enough to do justice to the session. I have a particular slide on my IG page. I would probably share the link later. If there's any platform where students in code can get resources, I'll share the link. So I call it sorry, how to memorize anything, especially a spoken word poem. There are about 10 so I'll be sharing from that slide. So the first thing I say is to ease yourself. and by ease yourself, not literally ease, to make sure that your mind is free in the process of creation. If it's possible, empty yourself, empty your mind of worries of, if it's worry, if your actual emotion for the moment is worry, let it just be worry. I don't know how to explain this. It's seeming abstract, but if you're angry, let it be that anger that you're angry about. Let it be that anger that you're focusing on while you're writing. It helps you. It helps you use the actual words that will help you remember it much later. So, but that's kind of abstract. You understand it when you start
It's more
creating.
like, sorry to interrupt. It's more like getting
Okay.
into character, like you're
Yeah,
playing a
exactly.
character. So you wear the
Exactly.
character so you can have the word
Yeah,
flow.
exactly.
Great.
So when you're on stage, all you have to do to remember most of the lines is to put yourself back in that exact atmosphere, in that mood that you were while you're creating it. So you get, so let it be the focus, let it be what is on your mind while creating. Because in the end, um, the way you present it boils down to how you put it back in your head. So, in continuation of that, my process is to first have it in my head, and that's by, doing away with any other thing that can be a distraction, do with
Yeah.
noise. So I have it in my head. So sometimes I have a poem in my head for more than, sometimes it can be as long as 6 months. I can't, yeah, sometimes. And sometimes it's just some few days. Like I have a poem now that I'm supposed to write. I have the first two lines, and I don't know. I don't want it to be a watered down poem, so I don't want to rush it. But I have the first two lines, and the first two lines really have to get attention, and that's usually the hardest part of it. But then you have to put some other things to make people want to listen up to the end. You have to add the musical part of it, the reading and rhymes, and you have to add content. You have to add things that will make people think like this guy is a genius, wordplay, and all of those. And you have to deliberately plan how you're going to close it, so it's not you're tired towards the end of the poem. So yeah, so I have it in my head, and because first and foremost, I'm literally rehearsing the poem in my head before I put it down. It makes it my poem. And speaking of my poem in quotes now, there are two phases to memorization. Now there's the memorization stage where everybody literally pick the words and put them in the head. You're picking and you're trying to, capture the words and have them in your head so you can say them off by heart. But there's a next stage where you internalize the poem. When you internalize the poem, by internalization, I mean you close your eyes and you literally are seeing the words floating. You can picture the words. So that's why usually when I have a new poem, even if I've typed it on my system, I usually would write it out down with a pen. Yeah. And that's the process of internalization for me. So when I'm writing it down this time, I I'm trying to picture the last line on the screen. I'm trying to picture the last line on the screen as I'm writing it down. So I'm trying to say so many things, but we don't have so much time. So I'm picturing the exact way it is on the screen, and I'm writing it down. So what I would usually say is, if after I've written the poem, I've typed the poem on the screen, and I'm rewriting it now as a way to make it stick, to internalize it, type it on the system, or whether even if you wrote it on the notepad in the first place, just keep away the notepad or the system and try to write it down again without those materials. Like whatever you're able to put down, just let it flow. Usually, if you miss any line in the process, probably the line you missed was not necessary in the first place. And that's economy of words. Yes, economy of words. um because sometimes you are tempted to want to over explain, you want to say so much so that they can understand you, but usually people are not that dumb. Yeah, people really get you in the first instance, so sometimes you don't need all the words to explain your thoughts, and that's why it's poetry. If it becomes too straight to get, it becomes a normal article or speech. But when you so strategically and skillfully, you know weave your words such that they are clear but not so clear. Yeah, when you're able to do that, you don't have to say so much. So usually, if you forget the line, if you forget some lines, if you do away with some lines, at the process of rewriting it, then probably the line was not necessary in the first place. So if you check it, and the line didn't really make, it didn't change the meaning of the poem, it didn't change the depth of the poem, it didn't change the um how will I put it now? The intensity of emotions. So I'm supposed to be angry in the poem. If the line that I left out is not contributing to the anger, then maybe it should not be there in the first place. Because
Mm.
sometimes we write too many lines because we want them to rhyme. So there are unnecessary next lines because there's a line you wrote earlier that ends with cop, and you're adding another line that has top so that top and cop can rhyme, but it's not necessary usually. So what I'll do in that case is if I want to use that rhyme, I'll put it somewhere in the same line with the cop. So I don't have to have an unnecessary next line. So let me say, for example, I want to say I love to drink my coffee from a glass cup. Now, that's supposed to be the only thought I want to express. But because there's a word I stop, I want to rhyme. So conventionally, you would say, um, and sometimes drink it without my top. I'm just playing words now. And sometimes drink it without my top. So usually, sorry, in the aim to economize words, I would say I like to drink my I like to drink my coffee from the cup without my top. So that's just one line. You understand? So that way I've
Mm.
economized words and I've still rhymed. Do you understand? So if
So
I
part of
forget
the
that
message.
second line, do you get? So if I forget that second line that has top, then it's not necessary because in the first place it was just there to help me rhyme. Do you understand?
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and of course, rhymes are beautiful. Rhymes are the reason people want to listen up because people we are wired psychologically to enjoy
The
reading.
big
We
deal.
find beauty in
Mm.
reading, yeah. So and that's why music will always sell. So if you add music to your poetry, people will listen. Yeah. So yes, that's for that. So after the internalization process, sorry, internalization stage. There's a next stage which I call the personalization stage. At this point, it is no longer in your head. It is now yourself. Whether or not it's a fiction, you have owned the poem that it feels like you're just talking to a friend. So imagine something. I don't know if you were in the traffic yesterday, and I ask you what the traffic was like yesterday. Now, if you have told the story of your traffic to somebody over and over and over again, you find out that if you're going to tell it to somebody else, you almost know the exact words to tell them. It's easier to tell every next time. Do you understand?
Yeah.
It's easier to tell
Yeah.
every the more you tell it, the easier it becomes to tell. You know what to say after what line. And if somebody gives a reaction to a particular line in your gist, there's a way you lay emphasis the next time if you're telling somebody else because you know this is the
Mhm.
part that makes you laugh. You understand?
That's
So that's the process
important.
of personalizing it. At this point, it is now your poem. You are owning it. You are saying it like it is actually still happening. You're putting people in the present. So how do you do that? Usually, it is by retelling it. And sometimes we don't have the luxury of crowd every time. So how do you
Mm.
retell it? Now, this is the part where people think you are mad. Well, it's part of the process. So this is how I do. Because I need to maximize my time. If I'm in the BRTs, I just have my AirPods plugged in and I pretend like I'm listening to music and singing along. Where in actual fact, I'm saying my lines, I'm reading poetry. Yeah. So when people see my lips moving, because there's some board in my ear, they feel, oh, he's listening to music. But if there's nothing in my ear, people will start looking on the other side of the road like, so
Mm.
you get at that
Really?
stage, yeah. So at that stage where you can tell your story again and again with almost the same words without thinking so much. It is called thinking without thinking. Let me
Oh,
see the actual words. Yeah, it is called
wow.
thinking without thinking, and I call it the head plan technique. The head plan thinking.
Mm.
So yeah, we'll get there. The slide will do more justice to it for you. So yeah,
Oh.
I've skipped so many things. So let's move on to
Oh
this
my
next one.
God.
Hey,
And this
Jiro,
is so brilliant.
good to have you.
You've been able to highlight three. 3 point for us
Yeah,
today.
review
But of
them.
course, I know there is a lot, and in fact,
Yeah,
I
sure.
really want us to happen a lot. But due
Yeah.
to time constraint, we might
Yeah.
have to bring you back. We might have to bring you back, please. But so we would be able to digest what you have shared with us
Yeah,
today, and of course, make use of it, get it in our head, and perhaps
exactly.
familiarize ourselves with it. I'll need you to help repeat this. I love the
Oh,
second part, which is about writing. You know, there is magic in writing.
yes, yes,
You know,
yes.
our
My,
creator has just made it magical. Once you put your pen on paper and you weave those words on paper, there is a way it helps in sticking
exactly,
to the head. So I definitely
exactly.
love that part. So I also agree with you when you said that we are all poets. Some of these things we do unconsciously, especially when we are preparing for exams or we are
Exactly.
preparing for a debate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of these things we do unconsciously, but because it is your own personal craft, you're building a
Yeah,
profession
I
out
think,
of it. It's
yeah,
you are more intentional about it,
intentional.
and it makes you better than a whole lot of us. So thank you
Yeah.
very much for sharing with us. But of course, we want you to round off with these 3 points that you've shared with us, the phases
Mhm.
of memorization, so that it will stick in our heads.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thank you for that because I was already tempted to want to, you know, compress so many, and that would not be healthy enough. So yeah, firstly, I said I write my poems like stories, so they are image based. When I'm talking, I'm practically visualizing the words because they are tied to images, they are tied to scenes, they're just words describing scenarios. And then I moved on to internalization, and that's the part where you get it in your mind with all the various means possible, and that ranges from writing it out, rewriting it again and again. Sometimes you might have to write it like twice or so, and if there's any line you leave out, probably the line wasn't supposed to be there in the first place. And
Mm.
yeah, so even the process of writing it down is a strategy. So that's why it might not be so advisable to type alone. You might just want to
Yeah.
write it out with your pen.
Mm.
So the next thing I said was also personalization, and that's the part where it becomes you, where you take it like it's your
Where the
story. You're
character.
telling it. Yeah, you enter the character. Yeah, we mentioned that part where, and that's the personal. It's part of the personalization stage where you enter the character. And I was going to. I think
Mm.
those are basically
Yeah.
the phases. But there was something I missed out of that in the process of personalization.
Mm.
I do something thinking freely, like playing on the words free thinker, and that's when you distract your mind. So in the bid to get this thing in your head that can call thinking without thinking, you want to keep your mind away from the words and still have them in your mind. So how do I do that? Sometimes I face the mirror and I'm reading my lips as I'm talking. So that way I'm not trying to remember. I'm saying it like I'm singing. Try it, it works magic. It works
Ah.
magic. Or I get some people, I go to where my parents are, they are not listening. It helps better if they're listening. I think it helps better if they're not listening. Or they are I just need distraction. So in the process of personalization, you need as much distraction as possible. Yeah. So go where they're making noise and try to say your poems out loud. There, it helps it sink. It helps you personalize it. That way, it's no longer in your head. It's now in your soul. So you can say it
Wow.
out even from your sleep. Yeah. So those are the
Brilliant.
basic poems, and probably we'll get to share more and better the next time.
Please, we will have to bring you back.
Yeah,
Please.
it's been a
Thank you
pleasure.
very
Sure.
much for sharing your time
Pleasure.
and skills with
Mm.
us today. So, at least the high points from me, for me, is you reconfirming that we are all poets. Some consolation, I guess.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you reminding me, yeah, about the fact that writing is quite magical. And by writing, I mean using your pen on paper. It just also
Yeah.
really helps with memorization. And then the mirror magic that you also mentioned. I know
Yeah.
a lot of skills. We're also taught that look in the mirror, speak to yourself, talk to
Exactly.
yourself.
Thank
That is
you.
also very
Yeah.
good. Thank you for highlighting this point for us. And yes, I promise I'm going to pay attention to these skills and see perhaps I'll be sharing the stage with you sometime soon,
Right, it'll
and
be my
giving
pleasure.
a spoken word um poem somehow.
So yeah, sure, it'll be my pleasure. Hey.
Do you have any poem that you want to deliver to us now?
Oh yes.
I just put you on the
So
spot. Okay.
yes, so to concretize those ideas, yeah,
Mhm.
I have a poem I should say. So this poem is not directly a story. Okay, let me share one that has a story so it concretizes the whole idea. So this poem is
Okay.
titled um Too Late. Yeah. So recently, was actually last year, a story headlined the front page of our popular newspapers. Upcoming artist kills himself. We saw clues in the mirror he used to do his death. A post YouTube video about how to be cute and a picture of him with friends. I guess he was tired of seeing himself. I saw people flip through his pictures on the pages of papers on the vendor's desk. Some say they loved his smiles and his sense of dress. Some say they loved his eyes, his size, the way he shaved his beard. Fine boy, no pimples. So sweet and simple. I loved his dimples. I wish he was here to hear these people. Perhaps he wouldn't be dead. A few months ago, people posted on their pages on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, Eric Haruna is dead. Everywhere, Eric Haruna is dead. But just like you, I could only search my head because this name did not ring a bell. Because not until then did I know that this man was a sweet smelling, a sweet sounding spiritual song still trying to be heard. I saw people share his music videos everywhere, videos they were never proud to share before his death. His singles became radio jingles, but his name remained a riddle in the middle of my head. I guess. I guess he had to be dead before his story could be heard. I guess he had to become history before we could hear his story. But this thought continued to linger. Why do you have to die before the world knows you're a singer? Why won't the people of this world give you a gun to trigger until the day you lose your fingers? Why? Why do we wait for people to die before we realize that they were ever alive? And why do we wait for people to die before we testify that they were the reason we stayed alive? I guess good news is not news at all. Because if breaking news does not break our hearts, then it's of no use at all, at all. No man is so fit to lift you 2 feet close to himself. But when you die, 6 men volunteer to drop you 6 feet into the belly of the ground to this world is wicked. We wait for your head to be gone before we give you crowns. This world is wicked. We can't lend you cash to buy your mama a gown. But when she's down in the ground, we give you cash to feed the town. A friend prefers to buy bottles of beer for his friends on weekends than to share a part of his wealth to restore the health of a weak friend. No one is set to sell your story until it's as sweet as the bread of a photo bomber or as bitter as the story of cucumber. I guess it's easier to sell scandals and it is to help a brother sell his tubers, and it's too bad, too bad, too bad how you're eager to tell people story. Yeah, ndo ekbele when they fall, but ignore the peel of banana laying on the floor before the fall. See, we were not like this before the fall. So what's wrong with all of us? Why do you treat people as though they're not one of us? If what goes to one can still come back to all of us. Now listen to this. 29th of July is his birthday, but nobody remembers Obi usually. When he died, 9 known newspapers published his obituary. Now, guess who bought his coffin? A friend who could not afford to buy him a cup of coffee. See, this will sound like nothing but rhymes, but I'd like to end with this line. If you cannot make us laugh while we are alive, then please don't try to cry when we die. So that speaks. I hope that speaks to you. Thank you very much. It's so good to be here, honestly.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. This deliberately it is like it's like I commissioned you to write this for one of my projects. It just in
That,
line with, I think I've discussed it with you sometime ago as well. It is very important that we celebrate, we recognize one another while we're still alive. And that touched
very
me really deeply. Thank you very much, Solar Speaks.
pleasure
Thank you.
always.
I'm very confident that God is proud of you.
Right.
You're
I know.
expressing your skills. Thank you very much for your time on the show
So much
today.
for having me.
It's only you
Thank you,
that will
Adriel.
make us extend the time for this broadcast, and we really deeply appreciate it. I really hope
Yeah,
that when
I
the
know.
family get to view this video, when it is shared much
Yeah,
later,
yeah.
we'll get the feedback. Yeah, and hopefully we can have you back to also continue with the tips of memorization that you are shared with us and learn some more even beyond that. Thank you very much once again, and do have
Pleasure
yourself
always.
a good
Thank you for having me. Izzy. Good to see you again. Thank you, Adriel. Mommy, your perm is in the kitchen.
Yes, I love the sound of that. The porn is in the kitchen. All right, thank you very much for hanging
All right.
out with
Thank
us
you.
live.
Thank
And
you
of
so
course,
much.
if you'll be seeing this video much later, I
Yeah,
would appreciate your feedback. We appreciate your comment. We appreciate your questions. Yes, feel free. Sola is at Solar Speaks on Instagram.
yeah.
Yeah, you
Everywhere.
can go right and follow him so that if you might want to have one-to-one conversation with him. And of course, remember that Narrators on Purpose, we're also on Facebook. It is a closed group, so feel free to join us. All we do within the family, it is just learn, focus on our voice, focus on our voicing skills, and make sure we travel the journey of discovery and development together. So go right ahead of Facebook. Uh, .com/, narrators and purpose. Join, and we will be learning a whole lot together. Until we come your way again next week, and of course, it is still vocal powers with Zazee and Mamuzo. Ejiro is on the back end operating all the gadgets that should be operated to ensure that we have a smooth broadcast. Thank you very much. And everybody, have a lovely weekend.
You
Bye.
too. Bye. Cheers.